China is the great economic success story of the century. The second largest economy in the world and expanding at a near double-digit rate. As the country grows in wealth and stature, it is increasingly forging closer ties with countries in the Middle East and Africa, which give it greater access to both resources and markets. And countries from these regions are actively courting China. The start to the Chinese Year of the Tiger is certainly a little hazy for Hong Kong, but out of the mist there's another tiger moving east, one that's bigger and bolder despite the economic woes clawing at the west.
Tiger on the Nile, which I think gives you an idea of the type of economy that we imagined Egypt to be moving towards. Egypt has been, I think, a place that has come through the global recession with its reform agenda intact.
It's this bold agenda that's now motivating Egypt's prowl eastwards. A 60-strong delegation of ministers, businessmen and financiers is out in force courting China and Singapore. The aim to boost trade between two global gateways, that of Africa and Asia.
10 years ago, less than 10% of our trade was with Asia. Today it is around 30% and growing.
It was easy to go to the European or the Western and USA before, but with the crisis I think they should think of diversifying the relationships, because definitely they cannot rely on some European economies now, or even the growth in the US.
A fact not lost on Asian investors. They're motivated by bumper foreign reserves and sovereign wealth funds. Egypt's solid growth rates are also proving attractive, as are its preferential trade agreements with Europe, the US and the Middle East.
They have to basically make known to the world the growth opportunities. They do offer a sizable market.
I think because China has a lot of money now, and especially I think China will invest in the infrastructure of Egypt.
Egypt's Investor Roadshow builds on last November's Forum on China-Africa Cooperation meeting in Sharm el-Sheikh, one which saw African debt slashed and $10 billion in concessional loans offered. It's fueling business between the two continents. Egypt's annual trade alone with China is now over $6 billion. Traditionally, China's trade with Africa was conducted at places like Chungking Mansions here in Hong Kong. Small traders buying and selling goods such as mobile phones and electronics. But in the last few years, China's trade with resource-rich Africa has intensified. It's not just about fueling China's economic growth. Africa's population of 1 billion still represents an untapped market for China's exports.
China, I believe, is interested in developing its collaboration across the world. On the other hand, I think what China ends up doing also depends on where it's being received well, which market are more receptive to Chinese approach.
Egypt is certainly receptive and is mirroring China's model of industrialization. Now the Tiger on the Nile is creating special economic zones that offer a one-stop shop dealing with labour to taxation.
Chinese investments in Egypt during the last 5 years, first you see this kind of surge of number to reach 1,022 enterprises with Chinese investments, 85% of which were established during the last 4 years.
Already China has invested over $300 million in Egypt, with one of China's most active economic zones from Tianjin trying to replicate its success here.
Potential market maybe 1.5 billion customers here. And also, it's far away, about 40 kilometers far away from Suez Canal. And the location is really important here.
However, a few of Asia's recent engagements with Africa have caused controversy. Critics say some companies exploit the continent's abundant natural resources while investing little in industries that add value. an accusation that holds little sway with the Egyptians.
They are mainly in manufacturing and services. So this is in a way an example of Chinese investments away from the traditional sectors of energy and natural resources, which is basically typical in other African countries.
It helps that Egypt has an educated labour force and one of the largest consumer markets in the Arab and African worlds, with over 80 million people.
We have 60 million mobile users, 20 million internet users, and we still see immense growth in Egypt. We are adding 1 million mobile subscribers each month.
Having a deeper and stronger presence in Africa would only come, I would assume, through Egypt, due to the reasons I've mentioned before, with the infrastructure and the manpower and the political stability.
Egypt is certainly leading the way, heralding new African economic models of engagement with Asia that are less exploitive. The question is whether Asia's appetite for investment can see beyond its thirst for Africa's natural resources.